to have John Brandt with us with the Reams Fire Department here. I found out when he came in that he started there when he was 16. He can let you know how many years that means he's been there. He has two boys who are also in the fire department. One volunteers with Reams and one with Mountjoy. And he is actually Jim Brandt's brother, who is a newer Rotarian. So welcome, John. Thank you.
Don't hold that against me that Jim's my brother. Monday nights, I'll back up a bit. I rent office space from my brother and run my business out of the same office building. And Monday nights, he says, I'm going to Rotary. You want to go along? I'm like, Jim, I got to go to the firehouse. So, Monday nights is training or meetings. And so I go to the firehouse and he goes to Rotary. So, yeah, I started at Reams Fire Department when I was 16. I'm in my 44th year as a volunteer. If they paid me, I probably wouldn't do it. Money wouldn't mean anything. I see a few faces that have been volunteers in fire departments. Both my kids are in it. I guess they didn't have a choice. My oldest son runs with Mountjoy as a volunteer. My youngest son runs with Reams. He's an assistant chief. We have an extremely great group of people in Reams. And I say that about Reams. If someone from E-Town was standing here, they would say the same thing. If someone from Mountjoy was here, they would say the same thing, because they do. Trust me. You cannot imagine the dedication that these fire departments have as volunteers. I will say, between Mountjoy Township and West Donegal Township is what's keeping the wheels on the bus of these volunteer departments, because of their contribution from tax dollars. Several years ago, the townships have moved forward with fire taxes, and it has been extremely helpful. We were in the same boat as Mesa. Good God, I don't want to bring that up because but less than 20% of the community was contributing to the fire department, and it wasn't working. And the township had to do something. So through the fire taxes, we know we have secure funding. Fire trucks cost $1 million. That's not our doing. That's just what things cost. Ladder trucks are close to $2 million or more. So, 2 years ago we took delivery of a new rescue truck. It was $950,000. Next year we're taking delivery of a new engine that we ordered a year and a half ago, 2 years ago actually, and it's $1 million. Thankfully, it's going to be paid for when it gets here, so we will not have any debt on that. We run right about 28 active volunteers, plus another probably 15 support staff. Very dedicated, very well-trained group of volunteers. And some people get confused when you talk about volunteers because they have this image of some guy that just runs out and gets on a fire truck. That's not true. These guys have to go through a minimum of 180, almost 200 hours of training before they can become certified just to be a basic fireman. Once they get through that, then there's additional training before you get into truck work or additional rescue work or, hazmat or high angle rescue and all kind of other things. Our guys have taken the last few weekends, actually last weekend, they took we had an electrical vehicle class at our station. That's all new technology that's coming. It's kind of scary. So, you know, there's things that continue to come down the road that, you know, we need to be aware of, and, you know, we do our best to try to stay on top of that. But I go back to the funding, and as I say, the townships have been very gracious that they saw the need. Funding has been secured. I think because the townships realize, as well as the boroughs, you're getting a service that there are no salaries. We don't pay anybody for anything. We still have all of our bills, but we are 100% volunteer. So, you know, we're very thankful for what we get from the township, from the communities. We average, I think our average is about 12 people per call. We're out the door from time of dispatch until we're out the door. I think it's right around 6 or 7 minutes. Some days less, some days more. But we have a real good mix of people. We have about 5 guys that are career firemen at other places, whether it's Harrisburg City, Prince George's County, Maryland, Montgomery County, Maryland. We have a few guys that are paid EMS people with, dare I say, Mesa. So, you know, and then we have guys that work shift work, or, you know, guys like me that are self-employed that, you know, my name's on the shirt, I can leave when I want to. So we're very fortunate that we can continue to keep things moving as a volunteer organization. We hope to do that for a long, long, long time. Because as I said to someone 2 weeks ago that was pissing and moaning about his $85 Mesa bill, that $85 doesn't begin to touch the fire companies when that bill comes due. You know, we can talk police budget, that's well over $1 million a year. That's where we're headed with fire department. So I hope I'm long gone when that happens. But, you know, like I said, whether you're talking Reams, whether you're talking E-Town, Mountjoy, any Maytown, Bainbridge, anyone from any of those organizations could stand here and tell you exactly what I'm saying. We have the best there is. We all train together. We all work together. You know, the days of, and you know it, when there was a call in E-Town, it was E-Town. When there was a call in Mountjoy, it was Mountjoy. When there was a call in Reams, it was Reams. It's not like that anymore. This morning at 33 East Park Street, you may have heard the siren blow. It was a ladder truck out of Middletown, a ladder truck out of Mountjoy, an engine out of Reams, an engine out of Bainbridge. Of course, E-Town's fire department, that's the resources that are used for it was dispatched as a building fire. And I get back to the office, and of course my brother Jim goes, "Did you save another one?" I'm like, "No, I didn't have to save it. It was a culinary mishap," which is burnt food. So, you know, so that.
There was $7 million worth of equipment.
Right. Right.
20 plus firefighters.
Right. So that's what it takes. All volunteer. All volunteer, costing, you know, no salaries. You know, and the older I get, I don't typically ride the fire truck like I used to. There's a whole lot of really badass volunteers that are younger than me, a whole lot LBs hanging on them than what I got, and a whole lot better shape that do that. I still drive quite a bit. I'm deputy fire chief and president, so I run the duty vehicle every 4 weeks. So I see what these guys do. I call them kids. They do a fantastic job. They take a lot of training. We've been blessed that over the last 2 or 3 years, I don't know where they're coming from, but we've gotten probably 6 or 8 new volunteers, younger guys. And it goes in cycles. You know, you get 3 or 4, you lose 2. And life happens to a lot of guys. You know, they get married, they have kids. They just don't hang out as long as they used to. But you know, and or maybe their kids get older, they come back and they're more active. But on a very serious note, I will say this: one of the things that concerns me is the mental health of a lot of these kids. What are we doing to as an outlet for some of the things that these kids see? My oldest son, several years ago, he was an assistant chief in Mountjoy and he had a pretty ugly week. He had 4 fatals in 1 week. He had 2 drug overdose deaths. He had a vehicle accident, had a fatal, and he had a domestic violence fatal. And I called him and I said, Mason, I said, are you okay? He goes, yeah, Dad. He said, I think I'm all right. And I said, well, you know, if you need to talk to somebody, if I'm not the guy, you need to find some help. You need to talk to somebody because that's not normal. I don't care who you are. That's not normal. And, you know, and there's, I say kids again, there's kids that run with our department, other departments, especially the EMS workers, that see some horrible things on a daily basis. And I continue to question, what are we doing for them for their mental health side? Are they turning to other things to try to relieve that? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it adultery? Is it something else? So that's kind of one of the things that I work on now. We are thankful that we have Nick Ressler as one of our volunteers, pastor at Conoy Brethren in Christ Church. Nick and I started a thing last year called Fire Share, where it's confidential. We will meet with anyone, or Nick will, or we both will, if somebody needs to talk. I don't care if it's about a call. I don't care if it's about something at home, whatever it is, but we made that available at our station. And if we need to go beyond Nick, we'll bring extra help in if we have to. But so we want to make those resources available to our members. And on the support staff side, we've got a great group of people that are there to do things like, you know, we're having another blood drive, I think the 17th. The Lions Club, you guys all get along, don't you? We're not going to have a fight with it. The Lions Club has the car show there in September. We don't do a lot of fundraisers anymore, only because we don't have time. We don't do dinners. We don't do chicken barbecues. We just don't have the resources to do that. Along with the fact that, and I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but when a set of gear for a fireman costs $7,000 or $8,000, and you have a chicken barbecue and you raise $1,000, it's just not worth all the time that's put into it. So we just don't do a lot of that. But I can assure you, from the standpoint from the Reams Volunteer Fire Department, we are going to stay volunteer for years to come that I see. And I think I speak for most of the departments around here. You know, they're all in pretty good shape manpower-wise. And we've got the support of the municipalities, Mountjoy Township and West Donegal. I know that for sure. And, you know, we're not Mesa, so nobody hates us. Not yet. So I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak. Maybe I was the last resort. I don't know, but I was easy. Yes.
Tell a story about one of your first calls and getting home to
Oh.
contact with your mother.
Well, I told this story at my mother's funeral. Maybe some of you have heard it before. And I guess this is part of, you know, I go back to the mental health thing. When I was 16, I ran an ambulance. And my first call that I did CPR on was out on Schaefer Road at a trailer park, and I can still see it to this day. And guy had a heart attack, and we went there and did CPR, and the medics showed up, and we couldn't save this guy. Did our best, and I got home at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going upstairs, and I'm 16 years old. I'm bawling my eyes out, and I hear my mom going, "John, is that you?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "What the hell's the matter?" And I'm going, "Oh, we had this ambulance call, and we tried to save this guy, and we couldn't save him, and I did CPR." And to me, at 16, you did CPR. It was supposed to work. The guy was supposed to be alive, and it didn't work. And in my mom's moment of compassion, she said, "Well, holy hell, people don't live forever." 40 years ago, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, that's how you dealt with it. Suck it up and walk it off, because that was it. And I'm not saying that we're soft now. I'm just saying things have happened over the years, and we see it, and we've seen what happens to people if we can't find an outlet to deal with those kind of things. You've been in it. I know that, there's people that have seen some horrific things. Whether you're police, fire, EMS, or 911 dispatcher, that where do you put things? I did a job for a woman one time a couple years ago. She was a chaplain for Phil Haven. And I said to her, "Where do you put it?" And she said, "I just give it to God." And I do too, but what if God's real busy? I'm fortunate that we have a very great group of people in our fire department. We do talk to each other and can confide in each other. My wife does get mad at me because I tell her I can't talk to her. I do talk to her about some things. There are things I just don't tell her. One, she doesn't understand. She probably doesn't want to hear it. Two, I don't want an opinion, because she's got a stake in the game. I don't want that. So we do talk to each other, and my kids, my kids have seen it, so I chat with them. But I still have fun doing it. I still like going to the firehouse and driving the fire truck, and I don't mind the fact that my son doesn't always leave work to go. He's not normally around a lot. I do. I go. And as I tell people, I will never complain that I left work or I didn't, I guess you could say I lost money because I went. But when Raffo Township's building blew up last summer before, my son drove our tanker to that call. And I will never complain that, I had guys leave or my son left or whatever. But what I try to explain to people is the value you're getting from a volunteer. And not just me. If any of you are familiar with Steve Johns from Mount Joy Fire Department, owns SM Johns Construction. He's their deputy chief. Jamie Rohrer from East Petersburg is a fire chief down there. He's a contractor. But my son drove our tanker for that call that day and missed a day of work. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, if you take a single axle dump truck and a mini excavator for the day, that's what I lost. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's what you're getting from a volunteer that's contributing to the community. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of them doing that. So I want to continue to do that, and I hope there's others that continue to do that in the future to keep things going. Yeah, John.
We've been talking about remaining all volunteer. And then we can talk about what a struggle that could potentially be. I know Manheim Township is kind of a hybrid operation.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that in the future around here, or do you think we're going to stay strong and volunteer?
I see it.
When I say hybrid, they have daytime paid
Yeah.
staff, and then the nighttime.
I see that. I see that coming to pay drivers, only because to become a driver, you just can't take someone right off the street and put them behind the wheel. So I see that coming, not next year or the year after, but I see that before anything else. But yeah, that's probably the first thing, or a shared driver between maybe E-Town, Reams, Mount Joy, something like that. But I see that coming at some point. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I just support what you're doing from a volunteer point of view. When we have our sales for Christmas trees, the fire company is there, and I just think that's the greatest.
Does this mean I have to sell trees again, Deb? Is this why you invited me? So I had to sell trees again?
Everybody has to sell.
She always texts me, and I don't think it's a question. I think it's a threat. You always say you're going to sell trees.
Some of us are too old to learn how to sell them, so we have to have your help and younger people. Great.
Yeah, Glenn.
Like Ackman. Like Acker over there. He's done that. The younger people.
So I got a question about how do you decide if you get to a house fire, let's say, and it's burning?
It's the word house fire.
Who makes the decision to just let it burn?
Can't.
Like, there's no decision. You put it out no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that.
Why can't we burn
Because
down
there's some
our
cases you think if it's already gone, it's better to just let it burn. But
It is. There's instances where you go, it would make more sense, but then you can't do the investigation. Then it's too hard to try to determine the cause, and you'd be surprised how thorough an investigation can be done, and they come back to find that minute piece of evidence and determine. There's a lot of things that go on. Sometimes you go, that doesn't make sense, but yeah, it does.
I'm gonna watch Chicago Fire.
Watch Backdraft, because that's what. Somewhere between 300 and 400. I don't remember the number altogether. We're at 90. We're at 96, I think, so far this year. We're somewhere around 400. E-Town's probably 6 something. Mount Joy's about 700. Yes.
You had to give us one or two pieces, for the most important piece of advice about how do you do this to your house to not have a fire. What are we not doing?
Have working smoke detectors. Have a working carbon monoxide detector. Have a plan to get out. And if you have more than, if it's just more than 2 people, have a meeting place outside. I tell this other story. When my kids were little, of course, my kids had Legos like millions of kids did. And I'd go in their room, and it was just a mess. And I said, we're going to have a fire drill. Let's turn the lights out. And I said, I'm going to push the smoke detector button. What do? We get down and we crawl out. So I turned the lights out, and I went out in the hallway, and I pushed the smoke detector button, and I heard, ow, 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 ow. I said, this is why I tell you to clean up your Legos. So they were crawling over them, then they learned. People will say, well, I have a smoke detector, and I say, does it work? Well, I don't know. Well, yeah, a working smoke detector, a working carbon monoxide detector. Carbon monoxide is another weird thing. And then you can have a gas detector. That's the other big thing now, the natural gas and the propane, because houses will blow up. and that's been proven. You know, I have to admit I didn't have a gas detector. I do now. But a working smoke detector, a working carbon monoxide detector. Yes. And a fire extinguisher.
So let the battle to you guys.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily go back to it.
Yeah.
You don't go back in.
Once you're out, stay out. Shut the door. We had I think there was, that was probably 5 years ago. We had a fire out on Hillcrest Lane, and there was one bedroom upstairs in the house. We lost the house. It was well gone before we got there. But there was a bedroom upstairs that the door was closed, and that room was pretty well pristine compared to the rest of the house because the door was shut. So that makes a difference as well. Yes.
So 2 things. I worked tree sales this year with you guys.
Yeah.
It was great. And your young guys were amazing.
That's why Dolan always goes along, because he doesn't have to do anything.
You guys were great leaders on the seats. They did it, man. They were very energetic. But my question then is, like, I know today on 283 there was a bad accident up off the Middle 10 exit. I don't know how bad, but I heard my wife said it looks fatal. How do they decide what goes to that thing? Like, why did we end up with 49 pieces there? Or is there a reason? How's that set?
It goes back to whose territory it is, and that's probably a conversation that requires alcohol. It really does. And I'll just give you an example, and it's not the fire company's doing. I'll give you this example. Elizabethtown Borough, their fire department, E-Town Fire Department, runs all of E-Town Borough. So Wise Market, Planet Fitness, that's in the borough. That's Elizabethtown Borough's first due area. We still go, if it's a building fire, we still go. That's theirs. The parking lot's ours because that's in the township. East Donegal Township, Maytown Fire Department runs the entire township first due. So there's sections on Colebrook Road that Maytown Fire Department runs first due to. That's the township that makes that decision. West Hempfield Township, the Susquehanna River is in West Hempfield Township. First due is West Hempfield Township Fire Department that's located on Route 23 outside of Ironville. So it's the township that makes that decision. And then you get into the logistics of whose equipment and who's equipped with what. Around here, for the most part, E-Town, Reams, Mountjoy, Bainbridge, the closest fire department runs first. That's kind of how it's set up. And for what E-Town and us run, we run together on almost everything, unless it's maybe just an odor investigation or something simple. But our rescue runs first due, I guess. Our rescue runs assist with E-Town on anything that's an entrapment. Their rescue runs with us on an entrapment. Building fire, our engine runs with them. E-Town doesn't have a tanker, we do. They have a ladder truck, we don't. So it's, we could spend the afternoon.
Barry, I'll tell you from West Donegal Township's perspective, our board is determined we're not going to get in the middle of that. So we're letting the departments in the county establish. We're not. West Donegal doesn't say, "Oh, well, Reams is in our jurisdiction, so Reams will run all the fire calls in our jurisdiction." It makes absolutely no sense because they're down in Reams, there's a fire in the industrial park.
Yeah.
You're driving by E-Town Station.
And we wouldn't do that.
So,
yeah.
West Donegal's position has been, and I think, I don't want to speak for Mountjoy Township, but I think to a certain extent there too, is to let the departments in the county work it out to what makes the most sense. We're not fire professionals. They're fire professionals. County 911, they know what they're doing. So let them work out where the best coverage is. Mountjoy
Township has what, 4? Reams, Mountjoy, Massonsville, E-Town. 4 of them run the township there. Right.
Isn't it too that it's the
people who call 911 and give really bad information.
Oh yeah.
You know, 40 car
Yeah.
pileup.
And I'll give you another example. Easter Sunday, Easter Sunday was my last Sunday of my duty week. 1:30 Sunday afternoon, we got dispatched for a vehicle accident standby, which a vehicle accident standby a lot of times is maybe a car ran off the road, maybe it hit a pole and there's nobody hurt. They just want it checked. So, I leave my house. We were getting ready to eat, but I left my house. No lights, no siren. I ride out to Ridge and Hereford Road. I pull up. There's that said there was a car hit the side of a building. I pull up. Sure is. There's a car against the garage. I walk over. I said, "Anybody hurt?" "We had a guy laying there on the ground." "Oh, is he the driver?" "Yeah." "Anybody else?" "Yeah, there were 34 people inside the garage having dinner. The 3-week-old baby that got splashed with kerosene is in the house getting washed off. The girl that got hit with the table, she ought to be checked. The other girl that got hit with stuff ought to be checked. This isn't a vehicle accident standby. This is a mass casualty incident." So we went from no lights, no sirens, from a vehicle accident standby to needing 4 ambulances. So it is a lot of times the information that's relayed to the 911 center. Gas leaks are another thing. People will call in and say there's a gas leak, and we don't downplay them, especially the way things are now. There have been times when people will say, "I smell gas," and it's not gas, it's Lancaster County air. We went to Fulton Bank a few years ago on a Monday morning. They closed up Saturday. The HVAC system sucked that manure smell in, and as soon as they walked in Monday morning, it smelled bad. And they thought, and it did. It smelled. It had a kind of a rotten egg smell. So, but we don't downplay gas smells anymore. We've upgraded our meter system and added new meters, additional meters, to monitor gas smells. So, yes, Deb.
There's 2 things here. We need volunteers.
We always need volunteers.
So what would they do? If you knew somebody who was a potential candidate to be a volunteer, they just show up to the firehouse?
Yeah, show up to firehouse, fill out an application. And again, it's not like it used to be. God, I keep dating myself. 40 years ago, you filled out a card, and they voted on you. And what did you guys do? Here's a pair of boots. If they fit, you wore them. Here's a coat. If you wore size 10 and all they had was 12s, you were a size 12 now. Yeah. Now it's the FBI background check. It's the state background check. It's criminal background check. It's driver's license, registration, and insurance check. Because if you don't have a driver's license, how are you getting to calls unless you're walking? So we go through all of that. And then once they come in and get through the initial training, when we do order gear for people, then the gear manufacturer comes in and fits the guy for their gear. So yeah, it's people show up on a Monday night, and yeah, we still use relief funds for gear. Yes.
Does the high school have any kind of orientation?
The CTC does. The CTC, the VOTEC, runs I think it's a cadet program that turns out quite a few really good kids through that.
And you had said about driver's license. The person with the most calls in Mastersville
Is Amish and doesn't have and
rides
rides a scooter
the first one
and Rathos. Yeah.
But when John was saying they need volunteers, but what do any fund drives or mailers or whatever, donate. We named Mesa for a reason. It doesn't say emergency medical, it's emergency services. Because there could be a time in the future that is going to have to absorb the fire company. Hopefully not my lifetime,
Hopefully not in mine.
but, it is kind of the way of the future because volunteerism and contributions have gone down. So just a plug for their name.
Hey, John, do you see, with our communities becoming more diverse, are you seeing any change in the type of volunteers? Do you understand what I'm asking? We all know Cokes for years had a whole lot of individuals that were here for the purposes of work, right? So I always wondered if that is, as our world changes, are we seeing changes in the volunteers?
What I see is you get guys that they're either all in or they're not. And that's really what it takes. A guy, it's as much as it is as a volunteer position, it's not a part-time position. You can't go, well, I'm going to take part of the training. You can't. You have to be all in. You can't go, I'm going to take half of the rescue course. You can't. You can't take half of the fire course. You have to take it all. And I call them badass because that's what some of these kids are. They scare me. I wouldn't ever tell them they could beat me because, but they could. They show up at a fire. They're there for business, and they show up at a vehicle accident. And there again, I'm speaking from Reams, but I say it for E-Town, Mountjoy, the surrounding departments, because I've seen what these guys do, and our communities together should really be proud of the volunteer fire departments that we have, because we've got some really good ones.
The one thing West Dongo's doing, we have a property tax credit for volunteer firefighters. So a volunteer firefighter from Reams who owns property within West Dongo Township can apply based on how much service he or she has provided to the fire department, can apply for a property tax credit. They can't credit them for their school taxes
Right.
or the county taxes, but we can credit them for their municipal property.
Again, I thank you, and
Appreciate it. Here's a little